Okay, and back again. I've got Amy's work up on the screen, and so we'll just kind of work our way down from top to bottom. Um, this is more or less symmetrically balanced horizontally. I think for it to be truly horizontal, while I'm not quite as concerned with what's going on in the window back here, this reflection right here kind of breaks up that, see how nice and clean it looks over on this side. And that little reflection there kind of breaks it up a little bit, and that would, I'm not sure how to remedy that. If you reposition yourself, it's going to, of course, mess up the symmetry because this is a pretty good example of getting things lined up. Another thing you could do, and it might be even a little bit more interesting, is perhaps move in a little closer. And maybe if it was cropped, y- you know this actually, to be perfectly honest, this would work beautifully as a vertical. you know this would work beautifully as a vertical, symmetrical balance. But that's okay. That's okay. I mean, you're just, you still, succeeded with the objective. There's, I would say, as far as light is concerned, it's very flat right now. This is gorgeous right down here. Okay, but of course, in order to get that, this stuff had to be underexposed, and that's why it looks kind of flat and silhouette. If you exposed for this, then your sky would be blown out. And so, the Photoshop can do this high dynamic range. It's really cool. It's something I also learned how to do this summer, and it's so easy. It just requires a little bracketing and a little patience and a tripod. And so what it does is, if you take your one image that's, you know, exposed for down here, you take another image that's exposed for what's happening right in here, and then, a few in between, and then it kind of stitches them all together. And that's how you get that kind of glowy, ooh, it's in a magazine kind of look. And so we will get to that very soon. I'm seeing a lot of opportunities to use that when I'm looking at your work. Okay, this is pretty precise. I'm going to go ahead and be nitpicky and say that I still think it's a little too. And the thing is, I know it's hard, you guys, to get your camera perfectly straight. So if you have just a little bit of problem, you can always kind of twist it a tiny bit in Photoshop. I can even show you a couple of little cheats, like how to kind of distort it just a hair, to kind of make it a little bit more perfect that way. This is the only thing that it's like, I know it's a minor detail, but with Photoshop, all you would need to do is distort this a little bit. You just kind of have a little box around it and you drag the anchor point over to about here, and nobody would know. So I'll have to show you that. It's using your transform tool, and I'll go ahead and write that down because otherwise I'll forget. Okay, let's see. Moving on. Really nice light. It must have been like a cloudy day or something. And here's another opportunity where I think high dynamic range would be nice because you could bring out some more detail in here. But another thing, I don't know that you'd need to do high dynamic range for this one. What I would probably have you do, and we're going to talk about this. I'm going to have to do a demo for you guys. See where I'm kind of tracing my pointer here. You can make a selection, you can make a mask that is shaped exactly along the contours of this archway here. And by a mask, I mean it's kind of like cutting out a hole in a piece of paper, so that you can only edit what's inside that hole. So you could kind of a mask. Let's think of it as like putting an archway shaped piece of paper over your picture to protect everything that you don't want to edit. And then you can apply all of your edits just in here. And it's a piece of cake. This would be a really simple to do. So I noticed a few of you are kind of hesitant to try that. And, you know, you're going to have to just kind of dive in and try it and make your mistakes and learn from them and, you know, keep doing it until you're comfortable. That's really the only way. Okay, so rule of thirds, pretty good. It's a very interesting rule of thirds. You know, again, this is something that you can very easily fix in Photoshop or Lightroom, because this slightly, you know, it's nice and horizontal here. This goes off a little bit. You could cheat just a little bit, but I think it's kind of interesting that you've got this thing overlapping. You know, those two bands. It's kind of breaking up the monotony a little bit of having just, you know, 3 horizontal bands going across, you know, so that's kind of nice. Maybe a little bit of a focus issue with this one. It's very hard to tell, you guys, but I think your focus is a little soft on this, and so, you know, we want to really look for focus. Okay, nice rule of thirds, but oh my God, it is so blue. You know, and perhaps it's kind of a blue environment, but I don't think it needs to be that blue. That is, you know, I think it needs to be warmed up somewhat, if not significantly. This, I'm not sure if perhaps you had the wrong white balance setting. Or maybe you kind of over exaggerated some edits that you tried to do in the white balance. You know, with white balance, you guys, it's kind of a matter of doing it a lot until you get a sensitivity for what looks right. And you know, the only thing I can say to do is bracket, bracket, bracket. You know, take a picture like this at the, you know, 5,000 degrees Kelvin or whatever, if you can set Kelvin on your camera. If not, you should be able to fine tune. In most of your cameras, you should be able to fine tune your white balance settings so that, you know, say you choose cloudy, and then you can have kind of a range within cloudy that you can still push that a little to the warm or the cool. But then, of course, if you don't, you can fake that bracketing in Lightroom or Photoshop. And, you know, I think what you guys might need to do just to kind of develop your sensitivity a little bit is save several different versions of this file with, you know, slight variations in the white balance. So that you can kind of put them in front of you and look at them and go, oh, this at one end, it looks really, really blue. At this end, it's looking really, really red. And then here kind of in the middle, it's looking more neutral. You know, and in this case, I think we want a little bit of blue because that's what happens. You know, it's on a cloudy day, things look blue, but not quite that blue. This is also a great opportunity to isolate an area and use it and apply some, you know, masked off edits to it. But good, you know, as far as breaking it into the rule of thirds, good. I'm a little troubled by this, and I'll just explain why. It's kind of like I was saying earlier about the horizon line. It's like either make it horizontal or make it very not horizontal, but don't just kind of hover, you know, near horizontality. You know, this could be flipped a little bit. And the same thing with the edges of a form. Either have it coming off the page completely or have it end before it touches the edge of the page. When you have the edge of a form just kind of barely touch right here, it looks a little sloppy, and you know, generally it's just not as interesting. You know, there's, you know, 2 different ways we could talk about this. One, if we zoomed in just a little bit so that we did not see the top of this, you know, like say it was cropped right about here. Well, what happens when you crop things is they suddenly become very mysterious, you know, because at this point it's cropped. We have no idea how tall this thing is. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I like to crop very closely because I think part of what is interesting about photography is what you don't show. You know, as much about what you don't show as what you do show. Okay, now another circumstance, let's say you really do want the top of this in here. We'll bring it down to about here. And then what that's going to do is it's going to take your background, and I'm just kind of drawing a shape around it here. It's going to take your background and it's going to make a very interesting negative space. Okay, so instead of having like rectangle, 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 you've got rectangle with a bite taken out of it, so the sky would actually kind of extend across here. And basically what that means is it would be a more complex shape. Both are fine. Do them both and compare. Which do you like better? So this is why I say, put these things out in front of you, which I'm sure you guys did, and have a bunch of slight variations, and it's why you need to sometimes take 20 or 30 pictures of the same subject to get 2 or 3, really really good ones. Okay, so let's see. Rule of thirds, contrast. This is definitely contrast. Not so sure I'm getting rule of thirds on this one. This one's another one I probably would have said, hey, zoom in just a little tighter. I don't think this little area right in here is doing you a whole lot of good. I think that just overall, as a composition, this would look better if you zoomed in so that the rest of that's cropped out, just like what I was talking about up here. Either include it or don't. But don't just kind of, flirt with the edge a little bit. This one, I think your white balance is okay. I think that your exposure needs to be brightened up a little bit. So you guys are going to, get in there and you're going to realize just how cool it is to have control over these things. You've got so much control when you're shooting with RAW. So don't be afraid of the editing. It's really fun. Okay, intentional imbalance. Let's see. Yeah, I guess a little bit. I mean, it's definitely an uncomfortable composition. Maybe you could exaggerate that a little bit more, because sometimes you said you're using books of a different height, but it's still pretty regular, so this was a hard one, so don't worry about it if I'm not like, oh, this is a masterpiece. It's probably not as interesting, or it probably doesn't have as much potential as some of the others do. Okay, what is this? Good. Is that a cow? Oh, it's a pony. Okay. Oh, that's so cute. Okay, great. So here's your triangles. Good. Might be a little soft focus here. I'm not quite sure, but I think maybe this area in here would be nice if it was brightened up a little bit, so that what'll happen is the pony will pop forward and separate itself from the background. Like right now, the pony is supposed to be your subject matter, but the background is grabbing my attention more. Why? Well, first of all, it's bright and colorful. Okay, so my eye kind of gravitates to that, and it's supposed to be the thing that's far away. Then the thing that's close to me, the thing that's supposed to be the subject, is kind of gray. And obviously it's in the shade, and it's like, well, what am I supposed to do? I mean, the light's not there. One thing you can try is to force your flash. This is a great opportunity to try to say, hey, even though there's plenty of light here, let's do the flash anyway, and the flash will come along and fill in all these shadows. That's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do, I wouldn't say high dynamic range would work for this, because your pony's not going to stand still. But the other thing is, this would be so easy to fix in Photoshop. It would be so easy to just kind of mask out everything, lighten the whites here a little bit, and maybe even get these reds, these browns a little bit richer, a little bit more warm, so that this area can hold its own against this area, because right now they're competing and the background's winning, and the foreground needs to, if not win, then be neck and neck with the background, if that makes any sense. Okay, so good. Perfect vertical diagonal composition, triangle, triangle, little bit of variation here. See, this isn't bothering me, because there's a little triangular piece of sky here, but it looks intentional. And it's kind of balanced by this little triangular shadow down here. So, that's kind of cool. I don't know if you guys notice these things or not. I notice all of that stuff, but I think it's going to take you some time. Um, I guess I should have told you guys to make these panoramas bigger. I've never done this before, so um, I would probably say I would wish these were about 3 times as big as they were. This is just not the optimal format for critiquing them. As far as I can tell, this is a great picture. It looks really good. Very nice composition. You know what's kind of the reason I asked you to hold your finger up, before you start the series, and then hold your finger up again when you stop the series, is because when you're culling, if you forget that you went out there and did panorama, you're going to have a whole bunch of compositions that don't look very good, and you'll be like, what did I take this for? Trash. And so if you have them kind of captured between 2 frames that say, wait, these all go together, you won't accidentally say, oh my God, that's a horrible picture, and throw it away when it was really just a small component of a much bigger picture. And it's great composition, works really well. So a nice work on that. And nice work on that, Amy, and on to the next one.